population is not being helped by everybody trying to protect their own country. And because most people on here that I listen to are from America, and when I hear guys like, for example, Pumpkin, I think he's a great guy, but and same with Ernie and Jay. They shout things like, "We have to take our country back," and that I'm like, "And what about me?" That's the problem I have when people say we got to take America back, we got to take whatever back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what about the rest of the world? Are you gonna let them live their own lives in peace also, or are you gonna bring them some U.S. democracy?
I know what you mean. I think we've been programmed, RD. I was programmed from an early age to love the red, white, and blue, love America. And there are parts I really do genuinely love about it. Mostly, I love the reason that it began. I don't like the way that it was handled as far as us acquiring land, taking it from the Indians. I definitely don't like the history of racism and, the skeptic nature that has arisen in this country as a result of the profane level of corruption at government levels is no surprise to me. I mean, that's a shame. That's a shameful part. But this whole thing, we don't even have freedom. We like to think we do, but we don't. If we had freedom, people would walk out on the street and say, fuck Islam, fuck Muhammad. But they don't, because they know their life will be threatened. So they think they have freedom, but they really don't, because freedom has to be exercised so that you can illustrate it exists. And so there is that. But when they say we need to take our country back, what they're normally talking about in the shows I've listened to, we need to take it back from the blacks. And the blacks are going, we don't have your fucking country. I don't know who has it, but we sure as hell don't have it. They're saying we need to take it back from the libtards, which are the liberal people that believe that all society should be seen equally. And I'm one of those people. I'm egalitarian in my nature. I think everybody should be equal in a free country. If you're a citizen that's a non-felon, I think you need to be treated equal. And that doesn't mean that you take money from the rich and give it to the poor, but we do need programs in place for when people fall flat on their face. You look at welfare programs, there's limits on those. The last limit that Clinton passed in his presidency was you can get 2 years of welfare assistance consecutively. You might need 2 months here and 3 months there if you have a bad time. But the most you can get consecutively is 2 years. And then you may go on and off of welfare, but your maximum lifetime allowance is 5 years of welfare assistance, and then they're done with you. No more help for you. You might get Social Security disability if you have a genuine medical disability. You might get Social Security retirement, which is a shitty little check they give old people in our country, which is in trouble right now because they keep borrowing from it, and it doesn't even exist. They're borrowing from what would have went to it, so it's kind of an illusion anyway. But we're going to be in big trouble when the population that's retiring gets so much bigger than what we can afford to pay out in Social Security payments. But I think we need to have a decent, fair social welfare program in place, because can you imagine if we didn't? I mean, the world already looks at us as kind of like barbaric, imperialistic evils. And if we're going to let our own people die on the streets just because they didn't get the good fortune or have the will to do the hard work and have the opportunities that your average white had, and some of these people are white, by the way, then they're going to fail. They're going to stumble. They're going to hit blocks. And if we let them die on the streets, we suck. I mean, I can't be proud of a country that lets its people die like that. On the other hand, I don't think they should be struck a welfare check for the rest of their life just because they don't want to try to do anything. So I'm definitely in the middle on that. But some of these people saying we need to take our country back have been taught to believe that what's happening is hardworking Americans' money is being taken away and given to poor people. And they will not look at the numbers. As far as where these tax dollars are going, they won't look at them. I know where the tax dollars are being spent. And social welfare programs are not where you have a lot of bleeding going on. Where most of our bleeding is going on is the Department of Defense. So who is it they want to take the country back from is what I like to ask people when they say that. Who's got it right now? I'll tell you who's got it. The contractors have it. And the government, the federal government has it.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, I mean, what politics is about, especially with elections, and it's always about the breadcrumbs, it's never about, so you're going to say that the middle class gets a few more breadcrumbs than the mega poor, or vice versa. And I mean, the loaf of bread is already being being promised away when we deal with the campaign donations. You know, I mean
That's right.
that's where the handouts are kind of. That's
Yeah.
where everybody where the biggest chunk of the pie is being divided, and then
Hmm.
what's the leftovers are what the normal people can fight about. And
Yeah.
I know that people that are high up in corporations and governments, and I, I mean, I know how they think about the public. I mean, they don't really think that the public is even fit to create their own thoughts. So, I mean, if you think about the way they think about you, it's crazy that we fight about these breadcrumbs. We should be after the loaf of bread that I mean, we all create this pie, you know. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody in the world is. I don't believe in this incentive bullshit either. I mean, if everybody got like a decent amount of wage, if you want to deal with money, or at least get food and shelter, you know, I don't think that people would sit on their ass and do nothing
Hmm.
for years. I mean,
Right.
maybe a few would say, "Oh, this vacation is great," but I think eventually people would start helping each other. I don't believe that they need like a penalty to help other people. I
Yeah.
don't believe that's true, but we never tried it, so and I don't think it's going to happen soon.
Yeah. I don't think so either. Now, you know what some Americans on the right would call you, Artie? They'd say he's for globalization. He thinks that there should be a one world government and that everybody in the world should be equal. And that doesn't allow America and other countries to attain their individual greatness. What do you say to people that would say that to you?
Well, I was expecting you to call me a commie,
I
but
wouldn't do that.
no, but I mean, you were speaking for the public, so you could have done that. But I in fact think that communism and capitalism are both suffer from the same problem, which is government. I don't think there should be a government at all, or maybe somebody like you could maybe have like the wise man on the corner of the street that people listen to more than to other people, but I don't think it should be written down in law, and I don't think government is needed. I think government was created because people don't trust themselves, and not necessarily. I mean, people like to blame other people for the problems, but I mean, if you trust yourself to be uh, capable of governing yourself, why shouldn't everybody be able to do that? I mean,
Well, it sounds to me like you trust that an anarchistic society would function properly. What about laws and law enforcement? Would you feel safe in a society like that?
well, do you feel safe in a society like this? I mean, I look at the alternative. I look at what we got right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this is working. I'm not saying that we could. It's the same like with guns. We couldn't start carrying guns in the supermarket here in Holland
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow because people would freak the fuck out. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the same. We couldn't start a movement without. We couldn't do without government tomorrow, but I think a transition to at least towards less government is much needed. And I'm not I'm not a libertarian in that sense because
Yeah.
I think that libertarians, at least the ones that I hear speaking, they care more about liberty for corporations than for people. I think that's kind of the problem with their liberty.
Well, is it safe to say though that you think people? I guarantee you, the average American considering that alternative is.
It comes down to, I mean, if you want to build a new idea of society, like you should really start at zero. So there wouldn't be any money. There wouldn't be. I don't think there should be ownership either. I mean, I think ownership is kind of a root of the problem, and money is too. And even below that, I think putting a value on things is also a problem because that's kind of the root of inequality, you know, when you start
Yeah.
valuing one thing more than another. But just like, I mean, you say people would freak out or are afraid of these ideas. But I mean, here in Holland, we'd be afraid if everybody started carrying a gun tomorrow. So it's understandable that you are afraid of something you're not used to and you don't know.
Yeah.
It's only natural.
See, you trust humans far more than I do. I think humans have a dark side that they would be relatively unable to contain in moments of stress. And I see that most often illustrated by people in power. Ironically, the people in power show me that without a political structure and a law structure, we would kill ourselves off in no time. That's America I'm talking about. I'm not talking about worldwide. There are societies that have run relatively lawless for centuries or even millennia and managed to survive. But it makes me think of these, they have these monkey wars. I think it's in South America. Is it the macaque? What is that particular monkey? They're about breeds of about 15 or 20 in the tribe. About 15 or 20 monkeys, and they're constantly attacking for new territory and then retreating and then killing, and then there's a new alpha male coming in, and it's just never settled. You know, there's never a line drawn where we can agree that's yours, this is mine. And I agree ownership is kind of a problem, but I think without ownership, you have nothing but survival of the fittest. And that leads people to lead lives of fear every day. Now, I agree that in a country like yours, if everybody had a gun one day, that would be a shock. That would be a major culture shock. In the same respect that it would be for us if we were suddenly not allowed to have any guns. We would feel very vulnerable. So that's kind of an arms race thing. You know, America has a bit of an illusion right now, the average American, that we can fend off the government from us if we have to. And I think we probably could, but the government's getting stronger and stronger. And I don't know if a bunch of people with 22s and 45s are going to hold off a military or a National Guard or even state police forces that come down on them and want to control them. So we might not be able to at least quickly overthrow our government if we have to. And yet the Constitution kind of allows for it. The Constitution, the way it's written, sort of says, hey, Americans, if you've got to throw these fuckers all out of office one day and just purge the system, do it. It doesn't say that specifically, but that's kind of what it leads you to believe. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I think that threat might make the government behave a little bit more. But unfortunately, over the past 100 years, we've all become kind of soft compared to how we used to be. It's like, well, that's not affecting me directly, so I'll let it go. Let them make a new zoning law. Let them make a new minimum wage law. Let them allow corporations to give to political campaigns with no limitations. And these things, we just let them go because we don't feel them directly. We've become very passive. We're not involved anymore in the decision-making process.
Well, that is what David Icke would call the tip-tap-toe. If you take an inch every time, you're going to find pretty much zero resistance.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, again, not to say that I worship David Icke or think everything that he says is okay, but that's one thing that I see happening, that if you, and people in power know this, if you just take a little bit every time, you're going to be able to take a lot from people in 100 years. And down the road, 100 years later, if you look back and see the difference between 1900 and 2000, you're going to be shocked. And if they did that change in one day, it would be like owning guns in Holland tomorrow. But what you said about this thing about gun ownership, I never got that before. I talked to people that are pro-gun in the States, like Pumpkin and some other guys. They explained to me that kind of it is a kind of trust you put in people by letting them own guns, I think, and that is something we don't have here in Holland. So I'd say that we trust people less because we don't allow them to carry guns, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Does the government abuse your average person in Holland the way Americans see themselves being abused by government? Or are they just better people in the government there? How would you compare them to the American government?
I think we got a better charade than you guys do. But that's the thing. I think that